Keprose Proprietary Ltd had announced a takeover bid for Base Resources Ltd. Corporations law says that during a takeover, if the buyer acquires at least 90% of the securities in a company, they can compulsorily acquire the other 10%. The legislation stated that after obtaining 90% of the shares, the buyer could advise the registered owners of the other shares that they were going to be compulsorily acquired. Anyone who received such a notice was entitled to apply to the court to set terms for the compulsory acquisition if the parties couldn't agree. The provision enabling a person to apply to the court for such an order began using these words: where a notice is given to the holder of any non-voting shares, renounceable option or convertible note, that person could apply for an order. If you read that literally, it is simple enough. The buying company issues a notice to the remaining shareholders, and anyone who has received a notice can ask the court for orders. However, in this case, Jane Kingston, personally and through a company, obtained options in Base Resources after the compulsory acquisition notices had been given. So the buyer gave notices to Person A, but Person A sold their options to Mrs. Kingston. Mrs. Kingston had therefore never received notice of the compulsory acquisition. Could she then apply to the court to order conditions of sale? The judges all took the view that according to the simple grammatical interpretation of the statute, she could not. Only the person to whom notice had been given could seek an order from the court. To Justice McHugh, this made no sense because it would defeat the purpose of the statute in passing the rule. He said, if the consequences of the literal or grammatical construction raise a real doubt as to Parliament's intent, the court is justified in refusing to give the words their literal or grammatical construction. It must give way to the construction which will promote the purpose or object of the Act. Justice McHugh, however, was in dissent in this matter, and the court supported a literal interpretation which did not give effect to the intentions of the Parliament. From this case, however, even though he was in dissent, we learn of the significance of the purposive interpretation of legislation. The court should give effect to the intention of the Parliament.